Kind of want to make a video, um, something that was on my heart as I was looking at what God told um, Jacob as he changed his name to Israel in the book of Genesis 35. And it got me to thinking as God ended up telling him to be fruitful and to multiply, meaning to have kids. Um, and it got me to thinking in a roundabout way about our generation, the young men in our generation, in general, the young African American men. And I say young, I'm speaking of men in their 20s and maybe early 30s. When I say this, it seems to be a lack of um, marriages or serious relationships among the youth in the faith. And that in the faith is a very important thing because um, I think we have to understand that it's important for the community's sake, for the culture's sake, and even for the race, for African American men to be investing in our families and our wives and our girlfriends and our children, and or if we aren't in that position to have them right now, to be in a position or at least working to a position to have them, because that is the way that life works. As people die, people are born. And we have to continue to reproduce, and that's really kind of deep when you think about Planned Parenthood. But I'm not even going to go over that route. I'm strictly talking about the Bible. And then, as we know in the book of Psalms 127 in verse 4, it says that the children are a gift from God, that they are a reward from Him. But it says that children born to a young man, they're like arrows in a warrior's hand. That mean that they're your confidence as a young man to have sons, to have children. And I think we have to get back to raising a family, having a family, working together. I don't care if you guys are struggling. I don't care if you staying in a one bedroom shack. I don't care about the what you're going through. I just think if you are in it together, that's good for the next generation. Because the black folks are having children, but I don't think they're marrying much. And I'm talking about the young generation. I'm talking about the young men. In this generation, the culture of having hoes and sleeping with sluts and stuff like that, and having fun and just screwing everybody. And see now, and we got to understand something. The men are always the leaders. If culture want to acknowledge it, if the dumb feminist movement wants to acknowledge it or not, men are the leaders, and I'll tell you how. When the men start going off on the deep end, that leaves the women to be vulnerable. When the woman is vulnerable, she's going to try to have some of the attributes of a man, try to be a protector, try to be providing, and whatever. But the danger of that is now the women are starting to act like men. All throughout history, we know men sleep with many women. I mean, even back in that patriarch time, some men had different wives. I mean, more than one wife. Now I'm starting to see with the rise of the feminist agenda, women who are celebrating sleeping with multiple men. And you might say, well, it's nothing wrong with that. Well, I think it is. I think it really is. I mean, because if I had a daughter, I would not want my daughter sleeping around with multiple men at a very young age. See, it's not just physical that goes into that has to be spirit. That's who you are as a woman. That you're a receiver. You can't be letting everybody into you. So we have to get back to lay some groundwork to say, okay, young man, some of the elders didn't set the example right. Some of the people in their 40s and 50s, they didn't. And I say that with respect. We have to say, okay, God, we're going to be that generation that surrenders. We're going to say, God, we want to raise our beautiful queens. We want to raise our sons. We want to be in committed relationships. The buck stops here. We have to be the ones that say that, because if not, we're going to be in a perpetual cycle that not only will it hurt us, it will hurt not just the next generation, but generations to come, because we wasn't committed to each other. We wasn't about team building. We wasn't about community building, and they will be born into a situation that is like, what is going on? I read a statistic. It was very interesting. It was saying that a child, even born into a family that's impoverished, that has the mom and the dad still fares better in different areas than a child raised by a single mother. I don't know if that's true, but if it is true, it raises an interesting point. It shows you the biological makeup of having a man around a boy and having his mother. We have to get back to the basics. I think it we've overcomplicated it. I think it is deep, but it all starts with the family unit, guys. We have to understand the family unit. We have to understand the importance of us, and I say us, and I say black men, and I say black women, and I say black couples, of going strong, overcoming obstacles, and staying committed to one another. We have to, guys. We have to. And I'm really targeting men in the faith, because if you're outside of the faith of God, Yeshua, Yahweh, Jesus Christ, Yeshua, if you, and that goes to my Christian brothers and my Hebrew Israelite brothers, if you're outside of the faith of God, if you're outside of Christ, if it don't apply to you, because your ideology is sleeping with multiple women. You're following these rappers who are controlled. We know they're controlled. They're controlled. It's like crack in the hood. They're controlled to poison you. But if you're not in the faith, you can't even see that. So I'm talking to people who are in the faith, who have some type of discernment, who have some type of wisdom to understand that, hey, we have to say we're going to stand up for our communities. If you're going to stand up for your communities, if you're going to be a leader in your community, the leadership starts with the men, and it is backed by the women. We need both. It's not a thing where it's sexist. It's gender war, gender bending. No, it's not a gender war. What the heck is that? It's not a freaking war. It's saying, as men, we're going to try to be your protector, and we need you to help us out as well. It's I scratch your back and you scratch my back. Come on, and it's natural, and it seems like every other race understand it, but except us. And I'm not even inherently blaming us. I know that every other race haven't been attacked like the so-called African Americans have been attacked. It is deep, it is simple, and I know that's kind of a contradictory statement, but it's up to us, guys, to get it together. So I just want us to understand that it all starts in the home. And take away the home. It all starts with a one woman, one man relationship.